I think.
All right, I've got 6 o'clock, so let's call this meeting to order. Roxanne, if you would take roll. If everyone would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, we ask that as this council convenes tonight, that you will give them your wisdom and discernment, and that you would fill this room with your grace and compassion. And beyond this room, Father, we pray that you would fill every member of our community with your love for their fellow human being. That when people come to our town, they wouldn't just say, well, that's a quaint town, but they would say, you know what, the people in that town really care about one another. Father, fill us with that kind of compassion. We pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Does the council have any comments on the agenda for this evening?
Mr. Mayor, I would ask that we would pull item 10H. I know that there's been some questions that we need to kind of have our attorney, Bob Johnson, here, his presence here to answer some of those, I think, and I was not able to get him scheduled here to have him here tonight. So other than that, I think the agenda is good.
I'll move the agenda as amended.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Now is the time for public comments. Do we have any public comments this evening? Nothing heard. We'll move on. Has the council reviewed the consent agenda for this evening? Do we have any comments, questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Seconded.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Excellent.
Now it's the round table.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is just a time to discuss the purchasing policy. It had been previously sent out for your review. Basically, the main changes were just some general language cleanup. We did add a section in there talking about a staff screening and selection committee, which is just for kind of larger projects and those kind of things that are hard to compare, like insurance policies, that it's just a kind of a process that on the staff side of things before we bring a recommendation to council is that it would allow us to review those submittals, potentially bring in vendors to have interviews basically so we get clarification on questions and before making that recommendation to council. We did also remove some kind of redundant things, a couple different places that talked about contract approvals, and we just moved that to just one section. And then we changed the vendor verification requirement just so that there are some times when we are trying to buy something from, say, a Best Buy or Home Depot, those people really don't want to have to process the vendor verification paperwork, and so it becomes kind of cumbersome, and eventually somebody just says, okay, it's all right, let's go ahead and buy it, but just so that we can align that with the policy. And basically, I think we were going to kind of develop a little form that in lieu of the vendor verification, it just be filled out and signed off on so that we know that that's a viable vendor. And then basically, then local purchases is one thing that I think council definitely needs to discuss on how we want to do that. I know from the staff perspective is we try to follow that policy, and we kind of get caught in the middle because we recommend the low bid and then we want to buy local. And if we know the guidance of when we want to buy local, then we can make sure that we align our recommendation with that. So other than that, I will leave that up to council discussion.
I think on buying local, we're kind of going to take it one step at a time, because, you know, if it's way out of reach, sometimes we don't buy local, but if it's within reason, we may want to buy it.
Yeah, I agree with us supporting local, but I guess I'm a little bit more black and white. Would like to have an idea for what do we see as reasonable? What percentages?
Yeah, can we determine a percentage point, 5% or 10% or whatever that percentage is, and figure out, if a purchase is above $2,500 and there's a 10% difference, I agree with Aaron. I think we need something that says this is what we're looking at.
I'd be more in line with both you two, but I'd hesitate a bit because sometimes we're not comparing apples to apples. When we're comparing like last time we were comparing a Cat to a John Deere, those are actually different machines. We're not comparing a Ford F-150 to a Ford F-150, right, with the same specs. And there it gets a little bit more complicated if you're comparing something that's got a 5-year warranty with a 3-year warranty. One may be more expensive than the other. Likewise, they may be from two different companies. And I'm using the big purchase we just did as an example. The Cat versus the John Deere were very different products. And so if you said 5%, the local one may be 5%, but it may not be as good of a product. And so I'd hesitate a bit to put just that cap there as well.
But if it is, a 2017 F-150 from this dealership or from the dealership up in the city, to me, when it is the exact same product, I think if you had that percentage to go by, then that would help. And that's what it is sometimes. It is the exact same thing, and I know that's happened several times, and maybe, our dealer here is slightly higher, but yeah.
I agree on a couple of points there. I think you're right, but I also think I like where you put that bottom cap of either $2,500 or $5,000. So if someone's buying T-shirts and we say our cap's 5%, if you're buying $500 worth of T-shirts, a 5% difference.
Right, and that's where I say there needs to be a starting point when a purchase is above so much, so that you're right, just like that. If it is a small purchase, then, there's no reason to shop around or not give it to your local guy if it's a $50 difference.
Yeah.
I don't know how we get all of this all in black and white, Aaron.
That's why I was just doing some math here. And I think that's a point I didn't consider with the variables. As long as, I think you'd have to have a like kind quality statement in the, if we're going to say it has to be within 5% or 10% based on this sliding scale for like kind quality items, because if it is a different product, then it really takes that off the table, that percentage thing. But I do feel like we're in a tough position every year when we put out bids, and each one of us have heartstrings being tugged at because we do want to support the local businesses. It's important that we do, but we also have to make good financial decisions. So,
Well, they
And then
pay
understand-
taxes, and they do employ.
Yeah, and that is how do you you've got to take all of that into
So you have to take all
consideration.
that in consideration.
And understand that
Case by case.
when we go out for bid, the more times that we do not follow the policy that we have out there, the less likely it is for somebody to want to bid and make that bid competitive.
so
We already face that quite a bit anyway.
So do you think we should have a policy in place that has a percentage sliding scale, or should we just make a decision at each turn?
I think it would be better to have something in place that we follow, that staff can make the recommendation, and everybody, and it's in line with what council wants done, so that we can make sure that we are following the policy. And then as we're doing it, we know that this is what the policy says, and this is because what happens is we get here, and the selection is different sometimes than what is recommended from staff, and then one, it puts staff in a bad place, but it also puts us in a bad place when we're trying to talk to the next vendor and get in the next set of bids.
Okay, you bring it to the council when it's over, what, 20,000?
Yes.
So you need to have this set up with a percentage breaking point that's pretty reasonable. So like, I guess what I'm saying is, let's say it was set at 5%, and you brought a vehicle purchase here that was 6 or 7% different. That 6 or 7% might be worth purchasing it here locally.
Yeah, the math here is if on a $30,000 purchase, which average for a vehicle, if you had a 5% window, it'd be $1,500. It seems like some of the vehicles we've seen come through are actually, what, $2,000 to $2,500 higher? So in that situation, the 5% wouldn't give us that room to work, so.
I think we need to leave anything over 20% on a case-by-case.
Over 20,000?
And maybe it is also going with the recommendation of that staff person who's actually going to be using that equipment, because they need to be able to get
Something
what they
that's-
want
right.
with the, bells and whistles that they need and everything. So sometimes maybe, if you are comparing John Deere and Caterpillar and whatever other brands there are out there, if the one that the staff, what they really want, that has what they need, isn't the local one and the price is better, I mean, I guess we do have to consider that too. We have to consider what it is they need it for, what the job is, and what they feel is going to be best for them.
If we have a set percentage, or try to come up with a percentage sliding scale, our variables are going to be jumping all over the place. The other side of that is we have to deal with Sid when we come in here and we tell him not to take the low bid. So at least that's a known, right? It would be a heck of a equation, I think, to figure out a sliding fee.
Sid, have you looked into what the college or the county does?
No, I haven't looked that far.
Okay.
And I haven't looked
I don't know
beyond,
if
I
they have
haven't looked
official
beyond
policies.
in other municipalities either. I do know that some will put, they will say like a 3% or a 5%, and anything that falls within that, then they have that local preference if they're comparing apples to apples, or, hey, this vehicle.
And I guess that wouldn't be, I mean, if we said 5, I'm still saying that 5% doesn't seem like that much, $1,000 on a $20,000 car, doesn't seem outrageous there, particularly when you start factoring in time and service factors. But I guess if we went over that, I mean, theoretically, nothing would stop the council. This isn't going to be an ordinance, is it? So if it was 6%, there the council could go in theoretically.
Then we would be in the same
And then we'd be
situation
in the
we
same
are
boat.
right now.
Yes. But at least you'd have some direction on
Right.
things under 5%,
Right.
right? It would
Exactly.
give you a little bit of direction
Right.
versus zero direction.
Yep.
Again,
So would that
not
be
ideal.
5 or 8% once you hit a threshold?
Basically, what I just kind of suggested, and not in a ideal world, would be if you gave them a percentage, it at least gives staff direction to say, we're going with this one that's local, even though it's 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever our percentage is. I don't have that number. At least that way staff could then give the recommendation of local rather than always the low bid.
Yeah, because you'd have to have a starting,
And the base
because
would probably be 20. That's
I
what
would say
you
keep
bring
it
to
at that
us.
20,000.
Yeah. And so if it is 5.5%, 6%, 7%, 7.5%, that's not ideal for a city purchasing policy. But if we keep bashing our head up against the wall and we all decide that 7.5% is where we want to be at, we can go 7.5. I don't, you know what I'm saying?
somewhere between 5 and 8. It's probably a good starting point.
I think it's a realistic starting point on a $30,000 vehicle, and that may be different on these $140,000 pieces of machinery too. So. Does that make everything clear as mud now?
Well, so would it, do you want me to put anything over 20,000, we have, if it's within 5% of the low bid, we will have the choice of local preference or something like that?
Local businesses will be preferred, or something like that, yeah. Does that sound
That makes sense to you.
agreeable?
Other comments, thoughts?
I prefer up to 7.5.
I think 7 would give us a little bit more of a window, because at a $30,000 purchase, that gives us $2,000 or $2,100. And it's being fair to them too, I think, in my opinion. That's
7%.
And do you want to do something different above 100 and 200 and just leave it there?
I haven't heard you mention this, and you may have. I was traded with Dave Hurd. I'll just spit out a name because he's retired. I never checked to see if he was hired because he was local, and I knew he would fix my equipment. And I know our guys knows who will fix their equipment best. If Chanute is better at fixing whatever they were talking about not too long ago, then I would say we have to go with Chanute. I don't care if it's cheaper, higher, or what. We have to go to where you can get it fixed. That's, to me, really important because you lose shutdown time when you can't get it fixed locally. And I'm not saying anything against local because I always traded local. Don't trade on the internet or anything, but I'm telling you, getting it fixed is really important. I don't think you can always put a dollar figure on these things. And I think our guys know who can fix them and who has the equipment they need. I have that faith in them. If not, we ought to fire them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
We got 7% on things over 20,000 that will add some language into that local preference section there. Was there other things in the policy?
What exactly would it be under 20,000 then? Just whatever you wanted to do? It'd just be a choice?
Well, I guess that would be, I mean, when we look at all these, we're always looking at, are they local? Can we get it fixed here, or can we get it here faster because it is local? Or, I mean, we measure all those type of things when we're making a purchase, but if we need to make a...
So it's just staff discretion?
Yeah, staff discretion on less than 20.
I guess that gives you at least a starting point there. Nothing says we have to stick with that number. If we find out that all of our bids have gone up 7% next year because we've announced this, then we can go back and change this. All right? That's my only hesitation when you say, hey, we'll bid up to 7%, we'll take the local bid up to 7%, is that people will change their bids and start padding that a bit. But
it may, like I said there too, it may get hard to get, for some of the vehicles, we can kind of get sometimes we have to work, but we can get the state bid to know what that is, so then that's kind of probably the base. Is that a fair statement?
Sid, do you need anything else from the council on this item tonight?
Just if there was anything else that you had questions on regarding the policy, or wanted added or deleted or modified, I was just kind of taking this time to have those notes. So
I do have a question. I'm sorry, I don't have it pulled up and prepared, but when I read through, did you increase the limit to which you would need to come to council for approval on items, or is it still what it was in the past as far as just making purchasing decisions? Did you raise that bar?
all that stayed the same.
Okay.
Didn't it? Yeah, we
talked about it, but we
Yeah.
created some other issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think on some of the big ticket items, if you're talking about 100,000 or more, that needs to be in a different category. And then we really need the input from the staff and from the people that are using it. You can see a couple of them there. What their thoughts are about it are going to be very important, or would be very important to me.
Well, I think we did that last time when we talked about the fellowship.
Right, and that's why I just mentioned that, well, if we, just rather than saying 20,000,
Right.
we need to get up to, if it's 100,000, we need to have another thought about it.
Maybe that just needs to come
Whatever.
that much.
Okay.
Well, usually when we provide a recommendation in the packet, that is something that has been discussed at the staff level with the department heads, and it's a group recommendation, not just, it's, even though if it has my name on it that I wrote that agenda item, it's not a standalone decision, so.
All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll move on to number 9, unfinished business, collection services agreement.
Okay, I visited with CBK, and he visited with his attorneys there and staff, and the statute does say that the debt cannot be taken from the fine owed on municipal courts. So we have to collect in addition to the debt collection fee, in addition to the fine. We can't subtract it out of it.
So if they owe us $100, we have to collect $130.
Correct.
But that's only on the municipal court.
Correct, yes. Any other questions on it?
Just trying to pull that form back up. Was that 4,000 last year in municipal debt, bad debt?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
See, you had a question coming up, otherwise I was going to make a motion here.
Just make a motion.
Are we committed to doing both? Is this, we have to do municipal and utility in this agreement with them?
I don't know that we have to. It would just simplify everything.
Why wouldn't we want to?
I'm just, I guess, a little sensitive to the fact that we're trying to go to get 130% out of people that we can't get 100% out of. And how that treats the citizen. I mean, I guess.
Yeah.
I play tug of war with myself on this because municipal trouble is something you can stay out of. So.
Well, if it made an effort to pay, that would might make a difference too.
That's part of it. I asked about it on the utilities last time, but I didn't ask about it with the municipal. There's no way for them to establish a payment plan to avoid being sent to,
Yes. Oh, yeah. There's people that pay $5 a week or,
there's no minimum
The municipal.
in
yes.
the municipal. So they can, as long as they're putting in an effort.
They have pay or appear nights. They either have to pay on their fine or appear before the judge and explain why they aren't paying. And then she gives them a certain amount of time to pay it, so.
So the timeline on a municipal fine, if you levy a fine against me, what do I have to do from that point forward to not be put on this CBK list?
As long as you're making payments and regular payments.
Within 30 days of being,
Yes.
Some of that, I believe, is up to the judge's discretion as
Right,
well.
yeah.
But normally, the judges that we've had in the past and currently are fairly lenient, as long as you're making a current effort to pay weekly $5 pay or appear, they're usually pretty good about it.
they expect a recovery of 20%, is that what they said on these?
I think that's what he said. It'll
So-
probably be more, but
$800 on the low end a year? I guess I'm comfortable with it as long as they have the opportunity to try to pay. And the utilities are a little different though, right? Isn't there a hard, fast percentage that they'd have to
Right.
pay each?
well, they have to pay their total utility bill out within 3 months of receiving the first one, if they move.
They have to pay the total of the first bill or the total of all three bills?
The total of any bill that's due within 3 months before it goes to set off.
And that's only when they move or leave the residence.
Yes, if they do not get utilities in the city of Iola or our service area, then if they do that, we make them pay their whole utility bill. No sense getting further in debt with the city.
It's only fair.
So if they aren't moving, they're not in that umbrella of people that are moving. If they have a late bill, so if I didn't pay my April bill, when do you send me to CBK?
I'm not going to if you're an active customer.
Ever?
As long as you're an active customer, no.
You gotta keep paying.
But I.
But
I
you're
could
going to
be
get your
turned off.
utilities shut off, yes.
Then once I get my utilities turned off, then I'm not an active customer.
Correct. If you
That's-
get, the first week we shut off electric. If you do not pay your bill by the following Tuesday, you get your gas and water shut off. If you do not pay by the following Tuesday, you're finaled and your 3 notices begin.
Yeah, I guess.
And then code services hunts you down for not having utilities.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the agreement with the Collection Bureau of Kansas and authorize the necessary signatures.
I'll second that.
The 2-year agreement, is that correct?
It's a 2-year agreement, but there's an easy opt-out clause. There was a very easy opt-out clause on both
I think
parties.
it's a 30-day notice and.
With
we
no
can
real
get it out.
penalty.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Let's move on to new business, item A, the Convention and Tourism Funds Disbursement.
Okay, the committee met on May 15th, and we heard from all of the events listed. We were able to fund most of them at almost what they asked for. We did withhold from the trolley. Because we're hoping that maybe we can build up some of our extra funds and give them a bigger amount to help purchase a new trolley within a year or two. That was what the discussion was and recommendation.
I didn't understand the withholding fund. Could you explain that?
Well, we just, the fund is like its own checkbook. So if we don't spend it all this year by dispersing it all out, then we will just build up cash. So then maybe next year we can give 20,000 or whatever that number is. And that bigger amount would help go towards buying a new trolley or help with this fundraiser, kick off a fundraiser event.
Beverly, I'm okay with that. I may die before this happens, but I really truly think we have to have enough money to do something with. And a trolley, I sent her some trolley pictures. She told me she dreamed about them, and I said I didn't because I didn't think I was going to get any money. But our trolley is in terrible shape, but we are really using that trolley a lot. And we have requests all the time, but I'm afraid to take it out of a night, and I won't say this out loud because I don't want the police to hear me, so.
I have one question. I have no problem supporting the bolus, but I thought last year we agreed that that was only a 1-year 20,000. Do we always do 20,000 there?
No, this will be the second year, and that's your,
And I mean, I have no problem, and I'm going to vote in favor of this, but if this becomes kind of a regular thing, we already give them a mill, maybe we should change the way that we do the mill. If we're willing to give them 50,000 every year, change,
Change it, yeah.
because at this point, it looks like 3 groups. And again, this isn't kind of a criticism, but that was a kind of a one-year agreement with the 20,000 that I understood.
Right.
Right now, we have the chamber, the bolus, and
Historical.
the Historical Society to take up the lion's share.
Correct. Yeah.
Again, $20,000 goes a long ways towards trolleys, and if we're going to leave that as kind of a line item in there, maybe we need to rediscuss how we're doing the mill and change it. Half a mill increase is
Right.
basically that.
Right.
That would be my concern for
It's
for next year.
tourism money.
They do bring a lot of people to town. Yeah.
The bolus? Yeah, I have,
What about Buster Keaton? I thought
This is the last year for Buster Keaton. This, also the Aging with Attitude Expo. There are 2 years in each city in the region, and so they will move on after next year. But they had over, what'd she say, over 150 people attend. So it was a pretty, and they do charge admission, so they're not going by all just money that they get. But and then the Lehigh Roots Festival. This is their second year, but the first year we've supported it through this.
And again, I have no problem with supporting the bolus, but if we already kind of have, it's weird that we have these two different funding sources for it. So,
and part of my concern with that, and Donna last year stated that the bolus brings in the majority of the convention and tourism taxes, so I am clearly aware of how you feel about that. But if this is a lot of money, this is 60% of a mill about, right? Is that? And if they're, and I love the bolus, and I'm appreciative of how much Susan puts in over there. She is the bolus. But if they're that reliant upon additional funding, and we're running into a time where, is the tax lid already in place?
Yes.
it is.
I mean, I completely support the idea of supporting the bolus, but I don't know if this is, convention and tourism taxes it's not predictable. So if we need to build something into our budget for supporting the bolus more than the mill than we already have, I think we should probably seriously consider that instead of relying on this much money out of the one fund each year. So.
And is there a question about who's going to run the bolus? Is the
I think
School
some
president.
things may be cleared up as the petition that the school
24.
board has filed regarding the bolus. When that gets kind of finalized, I think that will, I don't know that it'll all be solved then, but it'll be a clearer picture on how the bolus is funded and what is needed from maybe potentially the city or elsewhere.
The
So-
county's in the second year of their third-year agreement with them, so if this is something we want to commit to, should probably be putting some work into that.
I have one comment. I'm involved in every one of these things you're talking about. And I will tell you, I've sold tickets for years at the bolus, at the ticket office. We have more out-of-town people than we do in town, and that's also true for the trolley. We have more out-of-town people come in for the trolley that I can look around. I'm not going to say who hasn't ridden the trolley, but I will say there's just a couple of you that have, and the same thing is really true with the bolus. I don't see a lot of people from in town doing it, but we bring tourism in every one of those things, every one of them. And I'm involved and have been for years.
So that's why I'm saying maybe we should look to support it consistently from maybe a tax revenue.
I think the 24th is going to answer your questions. All the lawyers are talking this week, isn't it,
That's
this
moved
week?
to the 6th of June.
Huh?
That has been moved to the 6th of June, and
They moved it again?
I'm not sure that will be the final.
Yeah, that's going to have a lot to do with it, Aaron.
How much is the trolley that needs to be, what's the purchase cost on that?
one Donna and I are in love with.
I asked for $9,000 because the chamber borrowed a bunch of money from us, and they're paying it back $100 a month. I figure I will die of old age before that gets paid back, and I know I don't want to do any more out-of-town weddings because our light situation, and Corey can attest to this, and if we had Mike in here, he would be shaking his head, Mike Phillips, because our lights do not work properly. And when we had a snowstorm last year at a wedding, and we had the trolley in Chanute, I was worried all night about our driver. And the light situation cannot be fixed. Mike has told me that for the last 10 years. And so I will not even rent the trolley of a night anymore. If they tell me the wedding's going to last past dark, I say, no, we can't do it. And we lose money on that. We make money on our rentals, don't we, Corey? We make good money on it. And the trolley has always made money, but we bought an old trolley to begin with, and it's not getting any younger. So
I'll make a motion.
Sorry, the answer to the cost of the trolley was? Okay. I was going to try to donate some
and
money.
it would be insulated and the windows would work. For that wedding the other night, January the 10th, I believe it was, the windows kept falling down and Don Wilmoth had to try to get them up, and finally Mike taped them up. So now this summer they won't go down because they're taped up. The trolley's in bad shape.
I'll make a motion, we approve the disbursement of the transient guest tax for 2017. Do we need anyone else to sign off on that? Okay.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to new business. Item B, the dump truck bid award.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Street and Alley staff solicited bids for a new dump truck with a snow plow and spreader attachment as well. We received 3 different bids from Merle Kelly. The cheapest was the F750 chassis with a 10-foot galleon bed, and all 3 of these included the same snow plow and spreader at the same cost, so we didn't break that down in here. And you can see the trade-in allowance of $6,000, and staff would just recommend the purchase of that F750 with the galleon dump bed, Henderson snowplow, and Flink tailgate chip spreader from Merle Kelly for the total price of $95,918, and which also includes the trade-in allowance. And Mr. Leslie is here if you have specific questions.
So the three bids are from the same company. Maybe I'm not following.
It's basically the same truck. They just bid separate beds as different options.
And the description.
So there's one that has a Henderson bed, one a galleon bed, and one an RS bed. Excuse me. Because they can do different beds on the same truck, basically.
Are there no other motor companies around?
Not solicit anyone else. Otherwise, we'd have been in Wichita, Kansas City, Joplin.
Chanut's a lot more convenient.
So that's why we just have the one bid.
The bids from Merle Kelly, yeah.
Okay.
We went with, they have different beds, and we don't have a problem. We actually had no galleon bed once before.
I'm sorry.
The beds we have now are Warners.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. So we just have the one vendor that's the bidding the 3 different.
Right.
They're all
Went out of town, it'd be more.
they're all within 7%. So let's go.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchase of the new F750 with the galleon dump bed.
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions about the truck itself? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thanks. Let's move on to item C, the chip and seal project.
There's only 2 companies in this area that have the emulsion oil that we use for chip seal, which is Ergon out of Kansas City, Vance Brothers also out of Kansas City. Ergon is the old Sim or the old Coke company. Their plant's in El Dorado. And Vance Brothers has theirs up in Kansas City. It's back and forth. The last 2 years, Vance Brothers got the bid. We've used Ergon many a year before that, and it looks like this year Ergon is just a little bit cheaper. When you look at the spreadsheet in the middle of the agenda award thing, I put in the last 3 columns so you would get an idea roughly when we buy a tanker what the difference in price is. It doesn't look like much when you see the difference at $1.74 and $1.76. The demurrage really makes the difference. The federal environmental fee, I don't know why Ergon has always split it out. Vance Brothers just includes it in their cost per gallon. I don't have a problem with either company, and since Ergon's cheaper, we can go with them this year.
Well, if you don't have any problem with them, I don't either. So I'd make a motion to accept the recommendation.
Second that.
Ergon.
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. So you've got here, I got a question. You've got the cost for these two, but then over at the right, okay, I've got it figured out. All right. So a motion and a second. Do we have any other questions? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Concrete saw bid, item D.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, don't go too far, Dan. Superintendent Mitch Phillips wasn't able to be here tonight, so Dan he is knowledgeable about the concrete saw if we have specific questions, but basically staff solicited bids for a new concrete saw, got 3 different vendors to bid on that. The lowest bid was from United Rentals for $22,479. As part of the budget that's been appropriated already, we have $21,000 for this concrete saw. So the bids were a little bit higher than what we had budgeted for, but visiting with Mitch, he feels like that he can kind of absorb that through the gas budget, and specifically the small equipment line item there in the gas utility budget. So basically, I'm looking for approval to purchase the new Husqvarna concrete saw from United Rentals for the total price of $22,479.
Without any, if there's no discussion, I'll make that motion.
Second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. We'll move it on to item E, the mower tractor award.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff solicited bids for a mower tractor. We had option in there for a 60 or 72 inch deck, depending on, after talking to a couple of the vendors, or at least one of them, that there was some concern that the tractor would, if it kind of would handle the 72 inch deck. The preference is the 72 inch deck. We got 3 bids back, 2 for a 72 inch deck and 1 for a 60 inch deck. Of the bids, the Kubota from Store had us, the deck thickness didn't quite meet the spec, and the warranty was only a 3-year warranty for the commercial side of things. But kind of looking at all that, and with our policy, we can kind of waive some of those variances, and staff felt comfortable doing that with a $1,600 difference between the two 72-inch deck bids. Basically, staff is looking for approval for a new Kubota B3350 HSD with a 72-inch deck and a loader attachment from Store Equipment for a price of $22,325. And Mr. Ross is here if you have some specific questions.
Come tell us about the difference. Do you have a preference?
No, I don't. I mean, they're both basically the same. They'll both do what we want to do. It just depends on if we want to spend. The warranty's the big difference in the thing. So if you guys feel that 3 years is worth $1,600, then
What all is covered under the warranty? I mean, is it
On
like a
John
bumper-to-bumper type warranty?
Well, on John Deere, it's 2-year bumper to bumper, and then an additional 4 years powertrain. On Kubota, it's 3 years or 2,000 hours just powertrain, nothing to do with the motor or anything like that. So it's one of them, if you do it and it breaks down, then you did a good job. If not, then you spend an extra $1,600. So, and I mean, that part of it's just kind of you roll the dice on that. But
So
John Deere's double the warranty than the Kubota.
with these mowers, obviously, this is a piece of equipment that's going to see a lot of hard work and get used hard. And is that I mean, is it worth that $1,600 then to have that better warranty? I mean, when you bring something like that into the shop, doesn't take much to rack up $1,600 in a bill.
That's true. Yeah, I don't have an answer because if you get it and it breaks down in 4 years and
And then the difference with the thickness on the decks.
just one's a 9 gauge instead of the other one, did we spec 7?
I think we spec 7.
So, but we've got a Kubota out there now that we've used, and I'm sure it's got a 9 gauge depth, and we don't have any trouble with it. So John Deere's just. We had it before the new plant. And the new plant will be 12 years, so 10, 12 years. And the John Deere we've had 20. The one we have out there now, you want to mow somewhere close around. You don't want to take it on. I mean, it's got a lot of hours on it, but it still works, but it's starting to show its age. So we're going to take it out to Bassett because we mow that Elm Creek Park, and that way they don't have to drive anything, and they can just keep it right in that area and mow with it, and it'll work out good for that because there wouldn't be any kind of trade-in value on it at all, especially if you saw it.
The 60 inch isn't something you'd want to go with?
I'm not against it. I mean, before we've had the 72, so I don't know. I really don't want to get smaller than what we had, but they said the 72 on the John Deere would work. It just takes a while to get everything adjusted right and everything, but so.
What did you have now, you say?
72. We got a Kubota. It's got a 6-foot deck
So,
on it.
I mean, have you had issues with the Kubota at all? Is it a good piece of machinery? I really don't know that
Well,
much
it's 12
about mowers.
years old. We've replaced the hydrostat in it once. I mean, it did have, but that was part of it had a filter way back that nobody knew about, and it never basically, I mean, we didn't even know if it existed. We do now, but.
And they do the work on either locally, so.
Yeah, Store will do it if it's the Kubota, or John Deere will do it if it's the John Deere, so, or O'Malley, I mean.
I would prefer to see the warranty, but I would defer to what you use the equipment regularly, so I would just defer to whatever. If you think the 3 years is a good gamble,
Well, I tell you that now, and then in 3.5 years or 2,100 hours, you're going to ask me why did we go with the warranty?
Well, you're just making
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that one. I mean, it's double the warranty, but if you got to consider
it's double the warranty, and the Kubota doesn't have the bumper to bumper, right?
not for 2 years. No, it's only powertrain. John Deere's got bumper to bumper for 2 years, and then an additional 4 years for the.
So even the first 3 years of the warranty aren't equal.
Yeah.
First 2 years. Every time you buy something, if you buy a warranty, by the end of you buying things in life, you probably have spent more than you really ever would have if something broke down. But I'm a warranty fan, and it's within the budget. $24,000 would give us a known cost versus $22,325, and if something breaks down, you have unknown maintenance costs come in. But I'll just go with the.
Motion? Is that a motion?
Speaking out loud.
So you said there were issues with the 72-inch deck on the John Deere, though?
When I talked to him, he said that's about as big as you want to put on it. They put a 6 or a 5 foot on it because it's smaller. They say once you get everything adjusted right, they don't seem to have any problem with it. But that's just when I talked to John Deere, that was one of the things they brought up to start with.
Corey, what do you think about warranties? What?
I like the warranty, actually, warranty myself. That's just me.
I mean, that's just what I'm thinking too. On a piece of machinery that's that expensive, there are a lot of things that can go wrong. And if you have a bumper to bumper for 2 years and an additional 4 years on your powertrain, then that covers a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly all right with that. I just, like I said, it was cheap. Yeah, it was, I went with I mean,
I personally feel like it's better to be prepared for something that could possibly happen. And if the money's there right now, go ahead and get that extra warranty. So if, a year and a half down the line, some weird computer thing or some wacky little part that nobody knew was there messes up and is going to cost $2,000 to fix, it's not going to cost that. Thank you. Okay.
Was that a motion?
Yes, that's my motion, is that we go with the John Deere with the 6-year warranty, with the 2-year bumper to bumper, and the additional 4-year powertrain.
Which deck, the 72?
The 72-inch deck.
If we went to 60, you could split it in half. That cost in half.
There's an awful lot less mowing time with that bigger deck.
yeah, my mower guy, I'll tell him to get a smaller deck. He may not be my mower guy anymore, but he wouldn't care either way. So John Deere, that's fine with me. Okay.
All right, we've got a motion, a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
That's it. It's overseas, but I don't remember whether it's Japan or Korea.
Let's move on to item F, demolition of the house at 311 South Chestnut.
Don't come near me.
Yeah, she's the only one that's got to worry. This agenda item is for the house located at 311 South Chestnut. Backstory on this house, I had come to the council late last year. We had a hearing on November 28th to condemn the house. At that time, the council chose to give the property owner 6 months to make improvements, make corrections to that house. That 6 months would have ended May 28th in 6 days on, I got it here in front of me. April 21st, there was a fire at this house. I recently received a report from Chief Thayer at the fire station commenting on the safety concerns he has with this property. So I'm coming to the council tonight to ask for approval to get bids to have this property raised and the property cleaned. And again, I would be coming back to you in 6 days asking to proceed with condemning of the house and tearing it down.
Very well. Do we have any questions or comments?
There wasn't insurance on the home, correct?
No. Okay, all I ask for you people is giving some time to finish. I was doing what I can. Just Saturday I've been able to go over and start working because I spent that time in the hospital and tried hiring some help to tear down the house, but they saw fit to take my tools and equipment rather than tear down the house. So, I just want to get in there, try to find some stuff that I'm needing, and then y'all can have at it. I don't care. 'Cause
How many days are you asking for?
week, 10 days, because I'm not going to be able to work 8 hours a day over there. First when I tried, it was hard to even breathe that stuff over there because I did suffer some lung problems because of the fire.
That's no problem.
You wouldn't even,
Because I have
you
to
need
put it
bid
in the
times,
paper.
yeah.
We'll put it in the paper. I believe we have a 2-week grace period waiting for bids.
So in reality, he can do that while we're doing our normal process. That's not going to interfere with our normal procedure at all.
No, because I would have to go back, put it in the paper, advertise it, take sealed bids, give them enough time to turn the sealed bids in. I believe last time we gave go with the, make your decision on who you're going to go with, notify them, and then they have 10 days, once the contract has been signed, to do the raising of the property. So it's not something that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks.
So he can work with you as far as you can be in contact with him and give him this 10 days or 2 weeks, and then let him know.
Not a problem. I would let Mr. Cole know on this date, this is the date that we're going to come level this property. You have until this date, so.
What's the condition of the home? I'm reading this letter from Tim.
Totaled out.
I mean, is it safe, is the structure safe to be in?
I would say that nobody has any business in there except for me and one person helping me. I don't want anybody in there.
I actually have not been on the floor myself. I'm sorry. I haven't actually been on the floor that's left myself. Chief Dyer says his concern is people walking on the floor that's there because of the fire.
Okay, so if the house has a bad floor and a wall that's bad, is the structure, should anybody be in the home at all?
I would be very cautious of anybody doing it. Again, as of right now, it is Mr. Cole's property, so.
I would comment that this is what I do. I've gone by that property, and that's not a house that I would go on any part of the structure at all.
So my concern here, as a structural engineer myself, if we give him permission to do this, does the city assume any liability with this?
Can't we do that? He owns.
I'm not going to take my time to give him more time. It's just going to take me at least 3 weeks before we'd ever have a bid.
I just want to make sure that we don't have
The
liability.
biggest issue I see is that keeping other people off the property. Okay, even as recent as this last week, I've got stuff come up. I mean, whoever's doing it is just, they're doing it at night.
You know how that works.
Because during the day, I'm sitting right there. I mean, I'm staying at my neighbor's house.
But Greg, it's in you know what to do. I suggest, John, you want to make a motion?
I'll go ahead and make the motion that we approve the request for sealed bids on 311 South Chestnut for demolition.
Is the property fenced off?
Some of Mr.
Partial
Cole's
of it
friends
is
put
on the south side of the property. I've been working on getting the fence, the wall that went over on the fence on the neighbor's side, get fenced so that fence can be put up. There's a partial fence down the back. Put tape around it, but like I say, the little meth heads and thieves around here, they don't paint it.
We might be a good idea for us to just put some orange fence up, because it's an attractive nuisance right now, and if somebody besides Mr. Cole got injured on the property, I would think they might pursue the city. So
I don't think they can sue the city as long as I still own the property.
I tell you, anybody can.
I can sue anybody.
Yeah, and those fences cost nothing. We probably have some extra.
We should have some of that orange fencing that can, the snow fence stuff that can go up around it.
I have construction fence in the house. So I got enough to stretch across the front, but I don't have enough all the way across the back.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your right hand.
What are we
Motion
going to do about
carries.
the fencing? city fencing.
What do you think about that, Sid?
I guess my concern is if, I think something probably needs to be done, but I'm not sure that it's our responsibility to do that. And we assume that responsibility there, then everybody's going to point fingers at other places where we should be doing that. And I'm not opposed to that. Like I said, I think probably something does need to be up there, but I'm not sure that that's our responsibility.
Fair enough. All right, thank you, sir. All right, Greg. Let's move on to item G, 524 North Street demolition.
All right, the home at 524 North Street was sustained a fire on December 12th, 2016. It's this past backstory on this one. The home was owned by a Del Wallace. After some time, giving them time to take care of the property themselves, they did, and I sent them a letter on March 14th, giving them 30 days to either contact me or have the house demoed. During that time, it was brought to my attention that Mr. Wallace was selling the property to a, I forgot the gentleman's name. There was another one in between there. He was selling it to him on contract. I pointed out to Mr. Wallace that if we demoed the property, the cost of that demo would go back on the taxes of the property. So it's essentially would go back to him, even if he had a handshake deal with this other gentleman. During that 30-day window of the letter, Mr. Wallace sold the property to a third person, a Mike Wallace, who now owns the property. I believe it was either sold or given to him. I had contact with that gentleman. He knew about the letter that gave Mr. Wallace 30 days. I gave him the rest of that 30-day period, and I gave him an additional 30 days to tear down this house. There has been very little effort done to this date. There's been probably 3 sheets pulled off this house. He contacted me last week wanting to give him more time. I told him that it was already going to the council this week, that he had all the right to come to the council and speak this week. During that time, Mr. Ken McGuffin brought me a little signature sheet here. It says, neighbors of the burned out property on the southwest corner of Lincoln and North Street respectfully ask the Iola City Commission to vote to remove the remains of this structure. It currently is an eyesore and a health risk to our neighborhood and city of Iola. There are 10 signatures from people that live in this neighborhood. He also gave me a letter. He couldn't be here tonight. If you would like me to read it, I will. Go ahead. Okay. Basically, they're asking that the property be torn down.
I run by it all the time. It needs to be torn down. If you drive on Lincoln, it's been too long for this. I'm surprised we didn't get a complaint like we did from the one over on near Jim Street. North Buckeye, yeah. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the request to get sealed bids to demolish 524 North Street.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Did we lower our budget for house demos this year?
Yes, we did. From 20,000 down to 15,000. I have 2 other houses that I will be coming back to the council August 8th. These 2 houses and those 2 houses will pretty much take up my budget.
So they come in around 5 to 7?
Usually they're about 3,500 a piece. We lowered the budget, so I figured 35, times 4, that's going to be about 14,000. So. Yeah, I'm just counting the cost to demo. I have another line item that I put the cost of that under, so. Clerk will get on me.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion. We go into executive session for 15 minutes for acquisition of real estate property, mayor, council, city administrator.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, folks. John, you have anything else for us?
Do a little plug here. June 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th down at the Elks Lake is the Lehigh Roots Festival. $15 if you buy them in advance, $20 for tickets. Should be seeing some signs going around town with the lineups of the bands, or you can get on Facebook and check them out. Should be a good 4-day event. One ticket will get you in all 4 days. So.
Great. Thank you, John. Nancy?
Yes, I had a call from Denise Smith. She's in charge of the Relay for Life, which will happen on June 3rd. And they have it around the square, but in case of inclement weather, they request the rec building from noon to midnight. I did check with her. She has already put that request in with Jason, but she just wanted to see if we could approve that. And generally, we do that with waiving the fee. So just wanted to bring that before everybody and see if we were willing to do that for them.
I would say we would.
Can we get a motion for that?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor, please raise your right hand. There we go.
All right, thank you, and I will relay that to her.
Excellent. Thank you.
In the future, she could contact our office, and that way we can make sure we get it on the agenda, because it's best to have items that are going to be voted upon on the agenda. So.
And that's what I asked when I first got here. She called me right about 5 till 6 to find out when the next council meeting was. And I said, oh, tonight. So.
Okay.
All right, Beverly?
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Dawn?
I have nothing.
Thank you. Mike? All right, thank you. Sandy?
Last time we met, I said nothing, but I actually had something. I wanted to welcome Mike publicly and professionally to our council. Very happy to have you.
Thank you.
And like was said, we expect great things from you too. So
No pressure.
No pressure.
that's it.
Thank you, Sandy. Aaron?
Yeah, thanks, Sandy. Welcome to the team 2 weeks later. I don't have any city business to ask about, but I would like to comment that the Elks is no smoking pretty soon. They passed we made that a private club non-smoking, I guess, in June sometime. That'll pass. So anybody who's interested in knowing that, public information now.
Thank you. So either go now a lot or wait till June, depending on.
Well, you got them.
All right, thanks. All right, Sid, do you have anything else for us?
No, the only thing I want to just mention, I did send out an email about 5:15 or a little after with the year-end financial report. I apologize, that was a little late coming, but it is in your email box, and I have printed copies for Don and Bob. So.
Okay. Thank you, Sid. We appreciate it. Don?
I make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. All in favor, raise your right hands. Motion carries. Appreciate it. Meeting adjourned. Thanks.